Scientists have captured the Earth's climate change over the last 485 million years. Here's a surprising place we stand now. So look at the far end of that graph, and you see we're in a cooling period.
Well, I'm not sure. I didn't read that article, but
Yeah.
The scientists who are out there, I think.
I know, but there's a lot of money involved in that too, Bernie. That's part of the problem.
The left have been fear-mongering about the environment for decades now, but of course, all of their models, all of their predictions have failed to come true. So what we're going to see today, of course, is Ted Cruz calling out one of these climate alarmists over his past statements, which of course are pretty radical. But before we get to these clips, don't forget to like and comment on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
Define for this committee what homicide means.
Oh, sure. So homicide is a legal term that refers to, it's essentially a blanket term for any form of unlawful killing. And an unlawful killing is causing death with a culpable mental state. Causing a death means substantially contributing to it or accelerating it. And a culpable mental state could be negligence, knowledge, recklessness.
So you wrote an article in 2023 entitled, quote, Climate Homicide, Prosecuting Big Oil for Climate Deaths. In that article, you argue that oil and gas executives could be prosecuted, not just sued, but criminally prosecuted for homicide, for murder, based on climate change. Is that right?
That's right. I mean, I would be careful with the wording because murder, again, is a technical term. And definitely we're not arguing that they could be prosecuted for first-degree murder. That's killing with, intent.
But you want to put them in prison for homicide, lock them up, treat them as criminals, put them in, murderers get put, people who commit homicide get put in jails with violent criminals. And your position is this is a reasonable and rational thing that we should put the people leading the energy companies in America, producing 8.5 million jobs, we should arrest them and throw them in jail. Is that correct?
It could be the case that some executives should be prosecuted in that way. Of course, you can't put a corporation in jail, so there are other remedies in that situation.
But you can put human beings in jail, and presumably you'd put the corporate officers in jail.
Yes, you can.
You'd prosecute them for murder. So don't let there be any ambiguity. And by the way, Senator Whitehouse was really eager to make clear that you're the minority witness. You're the witness he wanted. He was eager to introduce you. I'm going to go on the record as saying that is a moonbeam wacky theory that you want to prosecute people creating jobs and producing energy for murder. Let me ask you, Mr. Arkush, how did you get to the Capitol today?
So here's what I want to tell you.
How did you get to the Capitol today?
I took an Uber.
You took an Uber.
Yep.
Now, was that in an automobile?
Yes.
Did that automobile have gasoline in it?
Yes. This is very, very cute. I see where this is going.
So I'm glad you think it's cute. Under your theory, you emitted carbon emissions.
Yep.
Should you be arrested in this room right now and prosecuted for murder?
No.
Why?
That's not what the law holds. So
tell me why, because you're willing to say the guy who sold you the gasoline should be prosecuted for murder. You're the one that benefited from it. Couldn't you have ridden a bicycle or maybe like some fairy dust to get here?
The guy who sold the gas and 50 years ago knew that it was going to cause globally catastrophic damage that would cause problems for humanity.
But you have exquisite knowledge of this. You are saying you are an expert. So on mens rea,
I'm not done.
You have a level of culpability because you claim that the act of getting in that car was violence, it was murder, that you should be locked up. Why do you get to violate these principles in a way that you just want to lock up the person who sold you the gas but not the beneficiary of it?
That's your claim, not mine, because to be liable, there are a bunch of reasons, but one of them is you have to substantially contribute to the harm, to the death.
Okay,
and
so how many car rides is substantially? Is it one? Is it two? Is it 10? How many?
A single individual couldn't possibly contribute enough. The point is...
Well, what about if, say, you're a Democrat politician who
do you want me to answer
What about if you're a Democrat politician who flies private jets?
It would be helpful if you're asking the questions. Doesn't he get to answer them?
He gets to answer them in my time, just like he gets to answer them in your time when you are asking them.
Seems like I don't.
So what about Democrat politicians who fly private planes all the time? People like John Kerry, who say, for someone like me, a private jet is the only reasonable way to travel. John Kerry has the climate footprint of a small town in Tennessee. Would you prosecute John Kerry for murder?
So depending on how you calculate it, U.S. fossil fuel or the oil majors, private oil majors,
So
are responsible for
question was, would you
around half
prosecute,
of global emissions.
my question was, would you prosecute John Kerry for murder?
Obviously not. No.
Okay, so Democrat politicians are exempted.
There is no individual.
Democrat activists are exempted.
I'm not going after people for carbon footprints. The whole thing is actually.
Well, why not, though? Under your principle, carbon is killing us. You claim it is homicide. By the way, this is a whack job theory.
You can't, a defendant in a homicide case can't defend by saying somebody used my products exactly as I intended them to while I was lying to them about
So you're saying we should prosecute you for murder
No.
because you drove an automobile here?
No. I'm saying.
Well, you said you couldn't use the defense. The fact that someone
No,
else
I'm
does
saying
it,
I'm saying
you contributed. You're a murderer. Under your
I'm not sure I
wacky
should be
theory,
speaking.
you're a murderer too.
I'm not sure I should be trying to speak. Can I finish a sentence?
For once, we agree.
That was a masterclass by Ted Cruz there. And think whatever you want about him, right? He is a brilliant lawyer, okay? He comes out here and says, hey, you actually believe that we should be prosecuting these oil executives for murder? Yeah, in some instances, right, there's different definitions, but yeah, that's what you want, right? What you want to have happen. But what this leftist doesn't understand is the simple fact that if you cut off all oil production, right, every single bit of it, natural gas, all of that stuff, right, then we would actually have mass death in this entire world, right? How would you get the food to your table? How would you get to your job to be able to buy whatever food remains? How would you be able to flee a failing state? All right, this is exactly what the leftists want, and yet it would cause the mass destruction of our society and many individual lives. But of course, it's the oil executives' fault, right? And I love how Ted Cruz actually points out, how did you get to this hearing? How did you travel across the country? How do you travel in your own life? You are contributing to the very disaster that you're out here proselyting about, okay? But of course, to him, oh, it's not his fault, right? He's not actually contributing, right? It's minuscule what he does. And it's the same thing from people like Bernie Sanders and AOCs, all of these climate activists, right? The John Kerrys. They fly around on their private jets, but they don't really care. They don't really believe what they're doing and what they're saying, because if they did, they would all be living a nice, environmentally friendly life. But no, they have to have their expensive clothes, their expensive houses, and their first-class private jets. Okay, but of course, it's rather inconvenient to point out the simple fact that, yeah, guess what? We're in a cooling period right now, right? In that first clip I showed you with Bernie Sanders and Joe Rogan talking about climate, right? There's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of evidence against the simple fact that a lot of this garbage is actually BS. Because for those of us who are old enough to remember, right, back in the 70s, we were all afraid of global cooling, right? The earth was going to freeze and we were all going to die because of the next ice age. Then fast forward a little bit and it's global warming. And then fast forward a little bit more and now it's climate change because all of their models fell apart and failed to actually predict the future. Big surprise, okay? So I love seeing Ted Cruz just call out the hypocrisy in all of this. Straight to this man's face, a man who wants to prosecute people for actually creating the energy we use every day in our lives, that actually create and safeguard our modern society, that actually employ hundreds of thousands of people in this nation. But none of that matters to the raging leftist who only cares about climate change. But of course, I'd be willing to wager that if they actually did get rid of all energy production, he would still have a car. He'd still have the means to travel. But you and me, no, we'd be stuck at the whims of the government. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me.